And hello, everyone. Thank you very much for staying in tune with us. 7:22 here in California. Just to check our little mic settings live.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Today, very nice topic. I'm so grateful. My 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 words can't explain the gratefulness I experience by reading your messages. Some of them so emotional, so honest, so deep that I just kind of find this as a blessing of a journey on its own, no matter how hard and responsible it is. Once you put yourself in the name of service, there is nothing more that should or need to stop us of embarking this journey of healing and awareness, because the healing will come through awareness. Don't be surprised, because obviously, oftentimes, when the healing occurs, when the body starts to heal, when the spiritual awakening starts, the body might experience some certain collapses. So don't, if you really embark to this journey of self-discovery, self-realization, self-expression, and finally, everything of that comes first through the self-awareness. So self-awareness, becoming aware of self, is not an easy task. So, and it's actually a spiritual journey that the mind and the body of that discovery need to adapt to those new awareness. And that slowly, through awareness, we're going to become aware of who we are. That means self-discovery. We're going to discover ourselves. But that's still not enough for us to realize that what we discovered is really us. So then after self-discovery, so self-awareness first, self-discovery second, then self-realization. I didn't just realize, I didn't just discover myself. I realized who I am and what my journey in this world and at this time is. And after that, once I realize who I am, so once I become aware of who I am, I discovered who I am, then I realize who I am, and finally self-expression. So the self radiates and penetrates through space and time, and then everyone around us become aware of ourselves. Oftentimes, that's not something that we just claim for granted. It's a lot of struggle, because the mind and old beliefs need to get crushed. Those crashes oftentimes go through the physical pain and physical suffering that oftentimes might trigger some diseases, so some illnesses, and that we can experience on the level of the body, kind of nausea, more anxiety, fear, even physical, like flu-like symptoms, and temperature, high temperature, how you call that? Fever, even vomiting. So what happens there, the headache would be so high that we might end up vomiting. All of that are how my mentor beautifully called it this morning on her lecture. Was where did I wrote that little? Okay, the actually illness is a crisis of the healing. That's so profound, so profound, so profound, so profound metaphor. We need to become very much grateful for the experience, and we need to nourish our illness. So we actually kind of give the blessing to the realization that we are on a path of this healing. Once you embark spiritual journey, that always on one stage of our life, we ask ourselves, like, who am I? Where do I come from? Why I'm here? Where do I go? And those questions are not just answered by the Western philosophy of materialism and consumerism. When we realize that having a car, having a good job, having a nice paycheck, having a house, everything is in place, that we are learned through the raised, that our parents that maybe didn't have taught us that once you have, you're going to be happy. Now we achieved all of that, and somehow happiness just doesn't come. So when our inner self need to kind of start penetrating through the mind and body that are conditioned, then we experience this illness as a crisis of healing. So instead of being afraid of being experiencing some physical symptoms when they occur, be grateful and observe the body and mind adapting to a new you, to a new expression of self. And in order to come there, we would really need to kind of have a mirroring effect of our life. And always, when you become observer of your life, rather than someone that lives the life. So when you are actually, it's the same, like we should run our life as we do run our business. So how did you say about, what was the book that you often like to quote when the business is in place? Don't be in the business.
Stop working in your business and start working on your business.
There you go. That's same is for the life. Stop living in your life, right?
Start
living it.
Start. How can you translate it?
Translate it, because it's
stop just living your life. Start living your life intentionally, or work on your life.
No. Go ahead and repeat the sentence that you just said about the business. Don't work.
Stop working in your business. Start working on your business.
Now translate that to life. Take a business out and
Stop working in your life. Start working on your life.
There you go. Because if we become observer of our life, then we can work on our life, and then we can see Sasha, and we can see Vedran, and we can see Donna. Thank you so much for tuning in with us, and observe Donna living her life. And then if you would have all the power of this world, if you would be creator of the Donnas or Sashas or Vedran's life, how would you love that life to look like? If you would be a perfect if you would be perfect manifestor, call it like a director of some movie, and now the God came to you and you say, okay, you're gonna direct the movie named Sasha Rees, or Vedran Popovic, or Donna Mawson Gehring. How would you have your main character live that life, play that movie, if the circumstances of the life of the movie and the setting of the movie and other actors in that movie would be your present reality? And then see how you can actually direct the movement of your main character of your life. Don't let others do that. Because if we are in our movie, then someone else is pushing us what we need to do, and someone else is directing our life. If we start working on our life, then we actually become a director, and ourself within that movie becomes the main character. And whatever we play, whatever we write in the manuscript, or in the manuscript of that movie, the character must take a lead role and fulfill that. Otherwise, they're gonna be fired from the setting. That's all. That's actually what happens if we live in our life and someone direct our life, and that's someone that we don't allow service to. That's what's actually going to happen to us. We're going to be fired from our own life. And that's what happens. Then the illness doesn't come it always comes as a blessing of healing. It's just we need to understand that what is the message. The message, the illness on its own always brings healing to a soul. Because the body, sometimes the ego, the mind, the body need to suffer so the soul can experience revelation. Because the mind is under attack of the ego. Ego is something that helps us often survive, because ego and the superego is something that's actually developed through our life, and it's conditioned. And if that ego is conditioned, then becomes, where do I access my infinite potential of the spiritual growth? And don't forget, as we laid this beautiful path of discovery of the self-love and deep love within us that flows from the parents to us firsthand, and there we need to go after and discover it where it got forgotten, is to approach that infinite source of love. We need to give up on conditioning by understanding that we are conditioned. The most conditioned, the most under attack of conditioning we are, more we think that everything that's going on in our mind, it's our expression of our free will. It's nothing to do with it. The thoughts we are thinking, the language we are talking. For example, sada ako bi počeo da pričam na srpskom jeziku, niko od vas ništa ne bi razumeo. To bi značilo da mogu da pričam na srpskom jeziku zato što su mi roditelji iz Srbije i zato što sam naučio taj jezik. I just use 2 sentences in Serbian because I was raised by a Serbian family in Serbia. But with you don't knowing the Serbian language because you are not programmed by the Serbian people in Serbia, or you didn't ever expose yourself to a knowledge of learning Serbian, you wouldn't understand what I said. I exactly said this. If you would never learn Serbian, you wouldn't understand what I just said. And that's how powerful the programming is. That's how powerful. I told you the truth. I told you the truth, but this was on Serbian language. You didn't understand it. And now you see, like, what the heck are you talking about? I said the truth. If you don't know Serbian language, you wouldn't be able to understand me. That's truth. But if you don't understand it, it doesn't change the fact that on the other language, I said the truth. That's how we are connected to our dogs too. How do we? Because you might have this mental barrier if trying to hear the words and you don't have a program within your mind or a brain where to process those words from, and now you are stuck in the moment of not expecting to understand what I say rather than feeling what I say. If you would be able to block the mind and open the heart on the level of telepathy, you would be particularly able to experience the truth of my words said on the different language. That is how we are connected to the dogs, on the level of telepathy. But for the dogs, telepathy with the humans is completely natural. For the humans, telepathy comes as some psychic force that might be maybe somewhere someone is selling it for $10 by reading the tarot cards or reading your palm, without actually understanding that maybe what we actually do have in our life as our power is a sense of connection to the nature and the natural laws, to the God, to the Creator. Call it the infinite intelligence. Call it as whatever you want. But then, how do we become so much engaged in the life of the dogs if we don't talk the same language? Yet, in some strange way and relationship, what we do is that we are kind of experiencing that telepathic communication that happens within 2 completely different species. But what is connecting those two? What is connecting humans and dogs? The concrete same level of family entanglement, because that is what makes what was the first source of why the wolves and the humans were able to form the pact, to sign the greatest contract that mankind or humankind ever did in its history, is binding with the dogs. It's because we lived in a family environment, both pack of the humans and pack of the wolves. And by taking a piece of one other pack, putting it in another pack, is the same family dynamic that leads both of these consciousness and consciousness and savest, consciousness and conscious. right?
Right.
Yeah. With that in mind, we did prepared one chapter today from our book. So Vedran gonna read a little bit out from there, and then I'm gonna discuss the dynamic, and then slowly you might be able to kind of connect with the perception of you observing your life and observing your dog. So which kind of, if I would give you a task until next week, maybe that would be a great homework to do. Take a piece of blank paper and just start writing about what do you think your dog is delivering you as a message through his behavior every single day. And then see, and then on the other side, so that will be what do you think your dog is telling you? And then you observe yourself interacting with your dog. And then see how do you interact with your dog and what do you think you was actually delivered as a message to your dog. And now we're going to go through this wonderful, one of the heartbreaking stories in our book. And I'm going to reveal a context that oftentimes our lives should be observed, because you are just not going through the experience by being a part of the experience, because that's not bringing us a lot of good. What we can take a good out from bad experience actually is observation of the bad experience and understanding the key role that we played in the bad experiences and bad events that occurred in our life. Because oftentimes the consequence of the bad experience is a beautiful story that unfolded from there. For example, oftentimes the result of the rape can be a beautiful child, and the child can grow in such a human that can change the world. Or maybe not necessarily the child, but the child in a generation from that ancestral line can turn into an amazing human being, where actually the seed of that line was found in a terrible event. On the other hand, if we try to go after something that's pleasurable for us, for example, to indulge uncontrolled sex that's pleasant to experience, or uncontrolled eating that's pleasant to experience, uncontrolled drinking and consumption of all beautiful experiences, like by over consuming them, always cause the harm. For example, we can enjoy the food and enjoy the sweets, but down the road, we're going to pay the price of the health. So not necessarily, but if you observe the life, if you take away yourself from playing in the life, and now you look at outside and you look a bigger perception, that will give you a chance to pull away from the trauma experience. That if someone experienced something bad, and it was left behind, lives in us. For example, let's take that, because the story that we're gonna take today is a very big family sexual assault. For example, and if you use that as a single event of the life, it can create a lot of traumatic events. For example, if the son as a son and a father, a son and a grandfather, as we would hear in this story, would be something that interacted in this hard event. Then, in order to kind of punish the perpetrator, the son will grow up into the person that's gonna keep moving on through the life by punishing the male. Every single man that he comes in his life gonna be punished for something that someone else did. But if we take us from the context of the experience and see how that event molds us in who we become, that's the only way to detach from the trauma itself, by observing it from the safe distance and then, facing the perpetrator, giving back the shame, giving back the pain, giving back the everything that takes our power. And that event that we experienced can become a biggest source of strength and support, because we survived. We survived. I was a victim of abuse from as it will become kind of logical in my life later on, maybe just a couple of months from now, because now those pieces of me came to be healed or came to my consciousness by being exposed to both of my parents, by my father and later on by my mother. And my healing would come from the moment where I need to put them in my life. Where do they belong? Because they are the source of my love. They are source of my life. Every single child has a father and a mother, and only father and a mother are the source of the unconditional love, because for the life we got for the present from our parents, nothing in return can be given. Now, how these terrible dramas that we experience with them are to be taken through the life as the biggest experience that made us stronger and made us who we are, not a victim of the circumstances, but survival and the victorious, like a Roman Empire that took over the possession of his own life and moved on, turning wounds into the most beautiful and precious scars, not to be proud of because they happened, or to blame the circumstances and everyone that was part of that event. No, as you have that's in a wonderful in Japanese culture. There is a wonderful saying that when the beautiful vase gets broken, then what they do is they put the vase together with the gold glue. And that gold glue is very difficult to make, and it's very expensive and things like that. So what they say, the more pieces the vase breaks, the more gold will be in that recovery. But it need to be recovery, need to be awareness, need to be discovery, need that I'm not a victim of the circumstances. I survived. I can carry my life forward with proud. The people that hurt me should carry their portion of that deal, but it's not mine to pay for their doings. It's mine to give them back what's theirs, through giving back my shame, giving back my wounds, giving back my terrible experience, and taking for me the strength, the pride, and the love. And with them exactly as they are, without judgment, when put them in my heart as a part of my experience, they become a part of my past, the part of my life. And the wounds through my body and soul are like a golden glue that showed to the world what this event was turning me into. Not a new perpetrator that will go and based on those scars hurt others, but the one that survived. And with the pride and dignity, but still humbleness and serenity, moves through the life forward. And that's a life forward-looking. Anxiety, fear, shame, uncertainty, and fear, I said, holds us back, holds us to the event that we don't want to go away, because we want our perpetrators to be punished. We want to punish them. And that's always abuse of the event. Then we use the event and we keep abusing ourselves over and over and over, and then become that forever play of victim and perpetrator and victim, and that is the people we attract in our life. So we can keep experiencing this until we do not become aware of that. And again, becomes self-awareness, self-discovery, self-realization, and self-expression. Okay, Vedrene, can you now kind of get your 2 cents in and kind of, is there?
Yes, I can for sure. So just to give everyone the background story, Sasha Reese has been doing family constellations for many, many years. He's worked with some of the leading facilitators in Europe, and there's a ton of videos on YouTube and everywhere. You just write family constellations, and if this type of work interests you, we're going to be doing it live in Los Angeles, or you can also do sessions online one-on-one, but it kind of works well in a group dynamic just because things really open up. So this is going to be a case study. So sticking to today's topic of how can our dogs help us deal with trauma, and I would say the best way is they can kind of take the edge off and they can help us talk about it in terms that are not so what's the word I'm looking for, that are not so self pinpointing, that are kind of more, you shift it onto the dogs and then things become easier. So I'm going to read how and what it looked like, and then Sasha can give his analysis, and then I think this is a good time to end. So this is from the book About Dogs and Awakening Towards Pure Love and Harmony by Sasha Reese, chapter 13, Frozen Heart. And I'm just going to read the portion of where it actually gets into the work and what it looks like. And like I said, just go to YouTube and put family constellation therapy, and there's a ton of videos, and it's very popular, mainstream, and in Europe, and it's becoming very well known in America. And I think it's just a really amazing modality to healing, to discovering yourself, and just to move on with life. So without further ado, I arranged for the event hall to be organized in a new fashion. I wanted all the chairs to be lined up in a perfect circle representing the family circle. The only chair which would remain empty for a short while was the one directly next to me on my right side. This was to be designated as the speaker's chair. The person who would take the seat would be the one who will work on his or her family dog constellation. As the room settled down and everyone was comfortably seated, I began the session with a guided meditation that was similar to the one found at the end of the book. Once everyone opened their eyes, I asked softly and enticingly who would like to take the chair first. A brave young man raised his hand and said, "I would." I nodded my head, indicating he was welcome to approach the chair next to me. As he approached, I could tell he had a stern demeanor about him. He was very tall, lean, and handsome. I must say he worked the crowd well, and he had a great stage presence about him. "Welcome," I greeted him, and was curious to see where this new adventure would lead us. I invited him to sit next to me and placed my open palm on his mid-back. I told him to introduce himself and to tell us what brought him to the workshop. He began by telling us that his name was Roberto and that he flew in from southern Florida. He went on to tell us the story about his childhood dog. Growing up, my parents were very old school and did not allow any pets in the house. They certainly didn't want any dogs in the house, but after much pleading and begging, they allowed me to take one of the neighbor's puppies whose dog just had a litter, and they were giving them away. The puppy was a beautiful white Samoyed mix. He went on explaining, since my parents did not want the dog in the house, I was forced to keep him in the backyard. As most children, I didn't realize what a huge responsibility it was taking care of a dog. And as the months went on and the puppy grew up a little, I grew less and less interested in him, until suddenly I began to see him as a burden and looked for ways of getting rid of him altogether. I love that dog dearly, yet knowing there is a high possibility that he would be put down, I still agreed to take him to the local humane society. I interjected and asked Roberto if he could recollect the exact circumstances which led him to make his final decision to give up on the dog. He paused for a moment and stated, "The dog was not trained well, and I remember this one time we had a huge party at the house. My parents' friends were over with their children, and I decided to bring the dog upstairs to where we kids were. He made a giant mess by taking a dump on the carpet. I was so embarrassed and frantically tried to clean it up. as best and as fast as I could. Suddenly, that familiar feeling aroused me and sent tingles down my spine. I knew that the next words which would come out of my mouth would be the question, the direct link from the field, allowing Roberto his chance to embrace and reconnect. I cleared my throat and very calmly asked, "Which dirt are we trying to hide? What is it that we are ashamed of?" At that moment, the entire room felt as if it was completely frozen. My right hand, which was still on Roberto's back, felt the frigid, tense shock impulses which were soaring in his body, deeply trying to be concealed by the bleak, undisturbed look on his face.
Read what he said.
I lost my spot.
Slowly.
I resonated with the entire room and felt bitter cold myself. In that moment of silence, which seemed like an eternity, where everything stood still, I realized what a tremendous improvement my year of silence has done for the technique. I was convinced that this question was the one. Regaining his poise, which the rest of the participants sitting in the circle had no idea he ever even lost, he began very nonchalantly responding to the question. "When I was young, I was sexually molested by my father and grandfather." He went on to elaborate. "On some level, I feel responsible because I started to enjoy it and felt as if I was provoking it. I did nothing to try and stop it." As I glanced at the circle of participants, everyone was either teary eyed, frozen in shock, or both. Everyone was impacted somehow except Roberto. He seemed completely unaffected by recollecting something about this past, which sounded like he shared with the world for the very first time. He continued with his answer. "I started drinking and using drugs at a very young age. By the time I was 16, I started trading sexual favors for cash from older men. I felt the upgrade of the technique. I thanked him for sharing and told him that it was enough. I took him by his hands and walked to the middle of the circle. I told him to find someone in the group who will represent his father. After he picked a stranger from the group to represent his father, I told him to look him in the eyes. When you see your father, bow down to him, bow to him with respect, with gratitude, and let the entire burden off your shoulders, away from you. Once you are ready, rise up again and look him in the eyes." This was the biggest improvement of my technique. Roberto was standing in front of his father, ready to find a place for him in his heart, a peaceful place in his heart where he belongs, exactly the way he is. In full resonance with the entire circle, I advised him to repeat after me a powerful affirmation statement designed to free individuals from fear and anger and to finally take control of their lives with the full support of everyone who came before them. "I see you. I see you the way you are. I am angry and I am hurt. You hurt my body and you hurt my soul. Now I am ready to see you the way you are. I did everything so you would see me for a little love and affection, which I was so greatly missing to feel from you. Now I am ready to see you as my father the way you are. Here and now I return everything that is yours to you with great love and respect. Thank you, Father." At that point, I noticed a few dry tears in Roberto's eyes, which he was preventing to free and let flow. I told him now to just follow his feelings, and the next thing which happened was Roberto embracing his father. The two men stood embracing each other for a few precious moments. This was not the end of the work, which needed to surface and be revealed. I told him to find someone in the group who will represent his grandfather.
Okay. So, not that I kind of direct you to look for the rest in the book, but the very important things that happens in this dynamic is that the only way that we can, why we are creature and the creatures of love, creation of love, source of love. How do we know that? because we are alive. The moment the love disappears from our heart, that's the moment when we say goodbye to this world. Until then, we are in the heart, that is a physical organ, on the place where actually our soul is, in the plexus of solar plexus. So the heart does connect soul to a physical body. Everything that we feel, anger, hurt, anxiety, pressure of all kinds, we do feel through our body. Our body is here because of our parents. Our parents in the service of something greater than they are, that they are. When you are a parent, you are not free anymore. The mother and the father are never free again. They are in service of the life of the children. The love from for the children and the respect of the service flows through the parents into the kids by law. No parents can cut that flow, and no children can resist that flow. What happened? The events happen, like this one to Roberto, and that this beautiful love as a source of life remains hidden behind this experience, and it's not seen anymore. In order to let love flow again and let us be able to feel the love again, love flows. Our life is a proof of that. Love flows. Why do we not embrace? Why do we not allow that? Why are we not aware of that? It's because of our physical body memory. Physical events that hurt us on a physical but also on a mental level. But the mental level as well is a physical level, because someone needs to say something or someone needs to do something. Both doings are in a way of physical impact to our body. So what happens there? Exactly what happened to Roberto. In order to survive, we freeze. That's what we can do. That's what does our body. Flight, fight, or freeze. You cannot fly away from the parents. You cannot fight them when you are young. What remains is to freeze. And in that freeze moment, what actually he said is, I started to enjoy it because it was the only way for me to survive. And what went on is I was exactly doing what I said on the beginning. I'm going to go through the life by punishing people, by trading sex to the older people, usually family people. I wanted to hurt someone, the married man with a family. I wanted to hurt him through giving him a possibility to open his way to cheat on his family, to cheat on the kids, to cheat on the wife. With who? With a young little boy that could be his son. In that environment, what happens is that everything that goes further and forward is taken from that freezed moment. And then every single man that Roberto would interact, he would see his father, and the only thing he wanted to do to that person is to please him and to punish him at the same time. Until he didn't come to the point of facing his father in the representative, seeing his father in someone else, and then taking that healing sentence of telling to the father, you hurt me. You hurt my soul. You hurt my body. And it's not me who needs to pay the price for your doing. It's you who need to take responsibility for what you did. So here and now, I'm giving all of that to you. And I remain in touch of my Father in you, that I welcome to my heart. And with you in my heart, the way you are, I can move on with your support. That's the moment when the soul overcomes the body of the Father, the mind of the Father, the experience of the Father. Because if you would hear the story moving on, it says the Father and the grandfather. So means the father of the Father, oftentimes all together in room. It's the father, the grandfather obviously did that to his son. And then obviously them did that to their son and grandson. So, but how we deal with the life when the source of the life comes from the people like that. We don't pay for their price, for their doings. We need to give them back the grief, the anger, hurt, everything to belong to them. It's kind of being angry on the perpetrator without doing the right thing that I never find anything so powerful as a family constellation, because the family constellation is a power of the rule that exists within the dogs in the pack, exists in the pack of the family. That is why the people were and the dogs were able to unite so much, because both operate on the same pack, not standards of the human interpretation of the laws. No, the laws of nature guide that rule. So, and that is what my little add-on to the family constellation systemic work is, that I'm interesting into this pet family dynamic. So what the dogs do in the life of the family, and how the Roberto was, being exposed to this knowledge. He came to the workshop knowing that something is greater bringing him there, and without even knowing where to start, he was thinking the worst thing he would need to work on would be, okay, I just maybe feel guilty because I put the dog to be adapted because I didn't want to deal with that with him anymore. But actually, the source of the reason of the question why he did that is because he started to be exposed through the dog, through his dirtiness, because exactly that is how the little guy was feeling, dirty. And that is how he was looking like, clean to perfection. He was shining like a diamond. Oftentimes when we have I knew, what was my favorite place to be when I was a child? At the bathtub. I couldn't get out from the bathtub. I was feeling so dirty that I would wash myself over and over and over and over. Day, night, every single thing happened, I would immediately no matter when I would change the shirt, I would go to take a shower. I finished the day, I would take a go bath. I would wake up morning at 4:00 in the morning, didn't know what to do. I would go take a soak myself in a tub. Not because I wanted to be in the water, not because I loved to get clean and bad, because I felt dirty. Until I didn't work that all out, consciously and unconsciously, I was doing the best I could. But to show to who? To myself. How? I was the one that was taking the showers over and over and over and over. But if I would be looking at myself taking the shower, I would be able to witness the context of me taking the shower. That's how we need to observe the life. And that is what happens in a family constellation. You become observer of your own life. Nothing is so stronger and powerful as the family constellation and as a therapy is. And why my interest come when the pet family is in place. That's more than that's where a lot of family constellators and therapists across the globe give me a lot of credit, is because I bring this new light into a pet family dynamic. Who is a dog in our life? Who the dog represents, and what is a message? So look at Roberto's story. He was looking for the nice little puppy, nice white Samoyed. Samoyed on Serbian If you would, translate the word, of course, might be very interesting to understand what is a background of Roberto, but maybe, of course, it's not his real name. The people that I was doing the workshop consent to the story that can be shared, but then I changed the identity of them and the places where the workshops actually happened, so to protect completely the privacy of every one of them. What happened there is on the language of Serbian, when you say samojed, it's meaning you eat yourself. Samojed, it's jedi, it's meaning you eat. Self-eater, that would be translated. Self-eater. And the whiteness represents divine innocence, a child innocence. And then he wants to be seen as that. That's why he likes that dog so much. But at once, the dog become a burden. Why? Because he can't bring his little innocent boy, he can't bring a little white light in the home because he's put outside. So Roberto was not belonging to the family himself. He didn't find his place within the house. He was outside. This is a metaphor that lives in our life if you observe the context of our interaction with the animals. So if you observe this, you have a little dog that represents this little child, inner child of the Roberto, that doesn't belong to the family. Why? Because the parents doesn't want to let them in. So if you read the story until the end, the Roberto faces three people in his circuit. First is a father. That was a father figure, very important to the sons and the daughter as well, but the sons much more. So he faces the perpetrator first, the father. Then he faces the grandfather. Usually the sentence would be the same that he said to the father, he would say to the grandfather as well. And there is a third person that he faces as well, because neither with the father, neither with the grandfather, the movement of the Roberto's soul was enough to defrost his look. That was, he was looking at the person that was representing his father. He was looking him with the on the beginning, it was like very sharp and like straight into the eye. But there were a couple of tears moving on with his frozen face. But then when I told him, bow to him and tell him what you want, I guided him to these sentences that I'm oftentimes not even aware of them. When I see the recording, then I actually hear what I told them to say. But then he immediately got that urge to hug the father, not the perpetrator, but the father. So once we will be able to divide the divine source of our life that flows through the person, and the person itself has its own parents, its own drama, its own everything. But oftentimes that person prevents us, the person that our life of the Father lives through, our source of life lives through and goes through, the person that is in service of our life. The Roberto was frozen to his father. He hugged himself. He bowed to his grandfather. He gave everything to the grandfather. The grandfather died, as I learned later, of the heart attack. Why? Because he exactly knew what he did. The heart was broken. Usually the people that have any source of interaction, like a sexual thing within the family, not necessarily always need to be like a physical abuse in a sexual way, but always something that hurts a child a lot, would suffer from the heart problems. The parents would experience the heart problems if they were sexually hard to the kids, were actually sexually, I don't say always sexually in a way that a sexual assault actually happened, but a kind of too much close to, in the space of child, developing with the child some mothers can do that on the level of the Oedip also by protecting children from the fathers. It's not good for the child. The child has a mother and a father, and no matter who is a father to the child needs to be welcomed as a whole. So when the mother and the child, so that's what happened to Roberto. So the third person he faced in the circuit of healing was his mother. And then when I saw I told him to choose someone to represent his mother, and he chose the lady. And when he put themselves in front of each other, then I actually saw that his mother was frozen as well. So she was not able to protect him. The mother knows that something going on. No matter, the mother knows, not necessarily consciously, but the mother would know that something is going on with the child by having inner feeling, inner fear, some kind of strange feeling, where this feeling comes from. The mother would know. I'm a father. I know that every single time when I'm super anxious towards my kids, there is something coming. And then when he was facing the mother, then actually you see where the real connection lays. He was experiencing the father was also very aggressive towards mother, and Roberto was oftentimes in between of them by saving the mother and things like that. But soul of the Roberto was also very damaged by the relationship with the mother, because what happens there is that Roberto become a partner of the mother energetically. So for his mother, he was a partner, and then the kid, what happens when the kid wants to save the mother from the father, then the kid steps in between the mother, and then the mother and the child become, in the sense, not mother and the child anymore, even though they are, but energetically they become partners. And then the father becomes usually also somehow differently interested into a son, oftentimes like rival, competitor. Oftentimes they come to become very violent to the son without even knowing why. What he's actually challenging is a competitor, because the son and the mother have different type of the relationship, because it's not a healthy environment of growth. So what's healing this here is actually to face the mother as well, and to get her burden back, that's her life, those are her choices, those are her decisions, and she is enough grown to take care about herself. And then I remember that sentence was, with you and your support in life, I can live now by myself. I let you go and I let myself go. It's kind of just, that's a way of separation where you kind of like in this environment of the healing, you tell to your father, please your mother by giving everything to her back, and then she becomes, when all of this is happening, you will see some strange life force becomes like in the parents as well, and the kids as well. Like everyone starts to living his own life again. That's very important. I do know that later on with Roberto developed a wonderful lifestyle, had a wonderful relationship. We stayed in touch, and he oftentimes writes me a nice letter about actually how life was very gracious to him, and relationship to he still need to work a lot on the relationship to his mother, but slowly by taking a baby steps towards consciousness, understanding of who I am and where do I come from, you will be able, I think he said now that he's very happily married, and that, they have a wonderful relationship, and he was not able to develop that kind of close by relationship with no one before he did this work. And that's where we actually gain the more strength, is when we start living our life, not living the poisonous life where we want someone else to experience something bad because they did something bad to us. It's like you are drinking the poison you want someone else to die for. So it's kind of like, I feel bad towards this person, and especially is different and difficult when those persons are our closest relatives, especially if they are our parents. Especially why? Because we're going to mirror through the life relationship with the parents. And every single dog that comes to our life is exactly taking us to that moment. What do we do to our dogs? Out from big love for the dogs, we go to the family of the dogs. We go, usually the dogs have very interesting relationship. If you look at the story of the dogs, you always have this relationship where the mother nourishes the puppies. The father is gone. The father doesn't exist in the dog's life as we know them today. Outside in the wild, on the, as a part of the ecosystem, the father of the puppies would be very much involved in the life of the puppies, but not as much as wolves. And that already shows what this world is. We live in the world where the mothers do care about the puppies more than the fathers, because the fathers just absent. They are absent through the history. First they went to the war, then they came back from the war, but then when they came back to the war, the mother already learned how to take care about the entire family herself. And then oftentimes, when they come back from the war, they become alcoholics or they become abusive because they are not needed anymore. And then the sons of those kind of fathers, if they come back or if they don't come back, they also want to go and follow the footsteps of the father. So they don't go anymore to the wars, but they become a workaholic. They become an alcoholic. They go to bars, they go to gamble, they are not anymore home. It's not to blame them. It's that how they learned from their parents. And somewhere the cord need to be cut. That is how our life of dogs are. We go to the mother and we take the baby home. No matter did you do it to the puppy of the mother or you adopted the baby. I already talked about that previous lives. It's don't observe the event. Observe the entire picture of how do we come into a possession of the dog. We need to kidnap the dog from the mothers. So then we want to replace the mothers and the parents to our dogs, and that is what we become. We become dogs to our mothers and the fathers to our kids. That's how we call them. My baby. I'm a doggy mom. I'm a doggy dad. And then why are we doing so? Our unconscious, kids want to sacrifice themselves for the love of parents. That's what he said. I did all of this. Roberto said, I did all of this. I allowed you to do all of this to me just for the little love and respect. I just wanted to be seen. And if this was the only way for you to see me, I was saying yes to that.
So you want to go to some of the comments we have?
Oh.
We don't need to read the first and last name. We can just say, so my mom said to me I should not have had kids right to my face. As a grown-up, my parents have died 2 months apart. All I want to do is please my father, and I was more neglected from the family. I say I was the scapegoat of the family. So we have scapegoat, neglect, please the father, and then mother saying don't have kids. And
yeah, that's always, what is that's always what's done from the biggest sadness and hurt. Those are emotions. That's not love. The mother tells that because she do want to protect. But she's angry at father, and every single time she sees the kid, if the mother doesn't work out the relationship with the father of the kids, because both of them are in service. And there is always some greater force that is in service that the mother and the father need to agree on. And that's so powerful force that the outcome of that service is a child. Then relationship of the parents, regardless who the persons are, need to be in heart in its place. And it's the only way how to deal with the anger is to allow truth to be seen. If it's abuser, should be called the right name. But the person, not the father in the person or through the person. That's hard, but it's only healing way. And how it's done? Through the affirmation and facing, because the parents maybe be dead, but they live in our heart. Every single time when we cut ourselves, a little bit blood that goes out, every single thing has 50% of my mom and 50% of my dad. How we can help? We can help what the parents are telling to us, but we can help what are we telling to our kids. If you are, for example, not living in a nice relationship with the father or the mother with the kids, there is a nice way to help them raise in love. So the mother need to say yes to the father of her kids in the kids. Otherwise, she gonna grow into a angry person. Every single time when the mother sees her child, she would be angry at the child's father, because that is what the mother gonna see in a child, the father. And usually more the father is rejected in the life of the parents, of the mother and on the child, more characteristic of the father gonna be seen in a child. That's how it goes always. So the healing thing comes, start facing the father and seeing through the father. Welcome you. For example, you can do that now. We can do now the parents, relationship with the parents, and the relationship with the partners, because they are like pretty much connected. So you can imagine your partner, the father of your children or the mother of your children, in front of you. You can close your eyes. We can do it together. So close your eyes and imagine your husband or your wife that you have a child with. Or imagine the person or the father of your child if you don't live together. Try to welcome the person in your imagination. And then slowly tell to him, I see you exactly as you are. And I welcome you to my heart. There is a place for you. Now, when I see you the way you are, I welcome you, I welcome to my heart your father. Because of your father, the way he was or way he is, you are the way you are. So in my heart, there is a place for your father as well. And I welcome your mother to my heart. Because of your mother, the way she was or way she is, you are the way you are. So I welcome to my heart your mother as well. And now the mother or the father, if you are the father doing this, now the father or the mother can welcome the parents, the other parent of her child in the heart, with everything that make that person be who he or she is. And in that moment, what actually happens is the strange force of life starts to flow through us. Because we don't see the person that's the father of our child, we don't see it anymore like a single event happened to this world. In order for every one of us to sit here and listen to this story, in only 1,000 years of our history, 8.5 billion people is needed to be born, lived long enough to give life force forward so we would be able to enjoy all of this. And it's not simple. We don't need to swim the life. We need to float on that river, to let the river of the life takes us wherever it takes us. And very healing to the kids that are out from the relationship where the parents are not living a nice in between. So this is a healing for the relationship of the parents. Next time we can do a mother and the father relationships. This was maybe, turning to be a much important topic now, as I felt. So important is to allow your child to have both parents the way they are, with no judgment. And the only way to see the person you have a child with the eyes that are in welcome the force of life, is to see through the person and to allow person to be whoever the person is. And that's the way how you will not pay the price for taking the burden of the person. Everyone needs to pay for the price. There is no free lunch in life. Everyone does something that they are doing the things that other people are paying for their lunches. Don't do that. By blaming you think that something else should happen. That's not true. But something else can happen in the future if we do the homework. And the homework is nothing to do with it's preventing us to do the homework is only fear and our anxiety and our thoughts that I can't do this. You know why you can't do that? Because you don't want to. Oftentimes I had a burden telling to my mother, She passed away 1 year ago. It would be like the October 30th. In 10 days, going to be 1 year without my mother. I couldn't imagine my life without her. But when she passed away, I was suddenly facing some different relationship with her on a completely different level. And slowly digging deeper in my life and memory, I find out something that I was really strangely surprised with. And slowly I'm going to talk about that when I'll be ready. I'll relive that story too, live, publicly. So, what actually you can help to your child, remember something that happened that's nice. When you look at your child eyes, try to allow them to look like their father. Oh, you might have a smile, beautiful like your father does. You might sit like your father. You might eat like your father. Maybe your father likes broccoli too. I don't like broccoli. It must be on him. But do it with love and support of the force of life. That nothing to do with the people in service of that force. And that is how actually the dogs are guiding us to this beautiful work of healing, where actually oftentimes the most difficult thing is actually doing the part you need to do. It's detach from the perpetrators by giving them what's theirs and taking what's yours. And the freedom that unfolds from those actions is unexplainable, unlivable. Through the last work I did to myself, with my mentor that was just last week done, I went through the idea of having last night, like I felt a pain in the neck like I never experienced before. And I was always doing some kind of very important, very interesting, in this bow, when you bow to your father and the mother, or in this way to your, whoever you in a bow moment. Bowing is very important. I'm going to show you sometime how to do that, maybe next slide. In the moment when you bow, what actually you do, you pay the respect to the force of life, one. So you pay the respect of actually interacting with the person on no matter what level, because it served the biggest cause and purpose. If we are not aware of that, we will be for sure in time to come. But also when you bow, the big shoulder burden and everything that we hold actually flows down to through our hands, and it's a ritual where actually we can give everything we carry here, we can give it back to whoever we interact with. And I was, for the first time, I always felt so nice when I do those bows and things like that. But last workshop I did with my mentor, it was so powerful. Like a week later, I feel this discomfortable and pain in my neck I keep bowing to that person that came up to be very important in my life. I keep bowing. And this morning I actually wake up, understand like the pain is coming and discomfort is coming out from not from the burden, but from not having the burden. I was so powerfully attached to that burden I was feeling it as part of my body. When I really detached from in that last workshop, the burden finally went wherever it should be and to whomever it should belong. And now, without the burden, I feel like 300 pounds less. And there is no anymore when I touch my neck, like I don't feel as I used to feel. And the pain comes from energetical relief that I'm not used to. I'm carrying that burden for 50 years. And I don't know how to live without it, but I'm consciously now aware of not having it anymore. And actually the unpleasantness is coming from that. That's how powerful the dogs are in our life. I would never ever imagine that this could happen if I wouldn't be going through this life by learning all about the dogs and then writing a Dogs and Awakening cause of having me interacting with the dogs so they get me closer to humans, especially the ones that I'm strongly connected with.
Wow. Thank you so much, Sasha. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. We really appreciate it. Drop us a like and drop us more comments and send us your messages. Contact Sasha directly for anything you might like or want more clarity on.
Yes, so next time we're going to keep doing this, whether I'm going to read a little bit from the book and then I'm going to give you a backup story of how that put together like a dogs and a people, and how actually the dogs through their behavior or the symptoms of the diseases or illnesses they experience can link straight into a eye of the beast where actually all of that is coming from. And it's always linked to a family dynamic that's so important to be embraced, because that's the only way we can become whole and live fully immersed and engaged in life. Thank you so much. Thank you for your wonderful reading as usual. See you the next Thursday, and in between, if you need anything, just let us know. We love you. Bye.